Hello, this is Dr. Marina Sabra, and this is the second part of my video series, How to Write a Technical Report. This video series contains 5 parts. In the first part, I've explained the different types of reports, and I gave you some examples of different types of reports and how they are written and what's the difference between them. In this second part, I'm going to describe the different parts of a technical report. I'm going to delve into each part and tell you how it is written and what to write inside it. Later on, I'll give you some remarks to consider when you are writing a technical report, what to do and not to do. And then I'm going to give you the presentation and how it relates to the report, and then the mind maps, describe what they are, and also how I can make use of them to write my report. So in this part, I'm going to describe different parts of the technical report. I'm going to begin with the abstract. The abstract is a summary of the report. This is why it is not an integral part of the report and it stands on a page alone. We do not number it because it's not within the report, it's just put with the report. It is short, so it says 6 to 7 lines, and it has 3 main subparts. The first part is an introduction to introduce the topic that you are going to talk about. Then you shortly and quickly describe all the topic, the major idea, and then you give the conclusion. That means you have to tell us in the abstract what the result that you obtained. If you have improved the precision of a certain measurement, you have to write what value of the precision that you received. If there is an outbreaking result, you have to give it here in the abstract. So that, because some of the abstracts, in fact, some of the papers and reports are not available online for everybody, they have to buy them. So in the abstract, the reader has to know what he is expecting to pay for. And this is when the abstract should be really clear and give the reader an idea of the end value. The introduction, on the other hand, is the first part of your report. So in the introduction, you are expected to introduce your topic to us, or the readers, or the people that are correcting your report. So it is page number 1, because it is within the report. It is not a chapter, it's just a paragraph. So chapter 1 would be later on, and it has 3 major subparts. The first is an introductory line to introduce the topic. And you could use the same introductory line as you used in the abstract, but then you go into a different description. The description of the topic in here is more elaborate than whatever you have put in your abstract. And the objective that you have in the description of the topic is to lead us into understanding what your project is about and what the details are and the steps that you did in the project. So you are going to detail a little bit the main topic and the methodology that you have used, the methods. And at the end, you list the different parts of the report. So at the end, you don't give any idea about the conclusion and what you ended up with, but you are going to tell us how your report is divided. What are the different subparts of the report, so that you begin to lead us into the reading of the report and to see, so that I can see what to expect when I will be reading this report. Following the introduction, you have the first chapter. The first chapter should contain 2 things: the general description of the topic and the bibliographical review. In the introduction, you do not have the right to put images and figures to really describe thoroughly your main idea. This is why in this part, you have to begin by describing anything that you are not able to describe in the introduction, and to elaborate your idea even more. So in the general description of the topic, you are going to begin by detailing some of the ideas that you mentioned in the introduction. In order to allow the reader, that means us, to understand your topic, it's very important to begin with the description of the parts of your design. So I don't want only to see your objective. I also want to see your machine or your design. How many parts does it have? Your work, you divided your work into different maybe subparts. I want to see all the subparts, how they relate together, to give me the result that you are expecting. So I want you throughout your report to lead me into understanding how you were thinking when you were doing this project. And is it a scientific way of thinking? Were you linking all the different parts together in order to end up with a conclusion, to end up with an end result which is working? Or you were just working a bit here and a bit there? So in the report, I want this to see this connection, to believe that when you're working, you're really connecting the ideas together. So to do this, I find that a flowchart is the better way, the best way to summarize this idea and to link the different parts together. A flowchart is just a blocks that you connect together with a line, and you give me what is the first part you worked on, what's the second part you worked on, and how they related to the conclusion, and then how you ended up with the results. But in really very brief way, maybe just one chart, all of this description could be on one page, but it is very important to begin with this so that the reader understands the different scope of the project, the different parts of the project. It is only then that I expect you to begin with their bibliographical review. To begin with, what is a bibliographical review? We hear a lot about it. In fact, it is what you read around and you go search on the internet. But not only this, it is what I have used from the internet to justify my answers, or what I have used as methods or tools from the internet, from the other references or books or papers, and I have applied them within my work. So I do not put everything that I have read on the internet in my bibliographical review, even if they relate to the topic. If I have not used them, or if they do not help me justify my answers, explain my answers, I don't want them in your bibliographical review. And of course, I don't want you to explain the obvious. If you are, for example, an electrical engineer and you're working on a circuit, you are not allowed by any means to explain to me what a resistor is and what a circuit breaker is. What I want you to give me from the bibliography is anything that is not expected to have in your courses. So I'm not expecting anything that any electrical student would have. On the other hand, if you have learned a new software and you are applying it in your report, you have to briefly explain what this software is, what the advantages are, and you don't give me the different steps of programming, yet you give me what the advantages are and how it compares with other types of softwares that are on the market. You could also, in your bibliographical review, include information that you have learned from the company. Maybe the software is something which is personal property of the company. Then you tell us about it, or the lab that you are working with. And of course, everything which is theoretical and papers that you are going to use in the analysis of your results. So as I already said, the bibliographical review should only contain things that are related to your work, and you have to link them to your work later on. You have to really know that you will not be allowed to describe any bibliographical information once you are out of this part. This is why anything that you are going to need in any part of your report, you are going to describe it here. And then you will only refer back to the different parts of your bibliographical review. Once you end your bibliographical review, it is now the time to start describing your own work. So this is where you describe your project and begin with the experimental setup. If you have an experiment, or the machine that you are working with, if you have a machine, and so on. So I need a thorough description of the tools that you have used, the setup that, if you have an experiment, the different parts, their codes to verify that they have correct measurement values, and so on. Then you give me the results. And once you give the results, you have to compare them with something. And this is where we are going to compare with things that we have already described in our bibliographical review. So when I give results, my results have to be well detailed. So I could be giving them in tables and then giving them in a chart, if it is possible. And once I give a chart, under the chart, I have to label it. I have to give the conditions of the measurement and describe the output. Of course, the axes should be well labeled and everything should be very clear. A description of each result has to be in a separate paragraph and placed under the graph. And a general evaluation of the whole results has to be given at the end of the chapter, including a comparison between the different results that you have obtained and the choices that you have made and the bibliography, so that I can see if your work is better than something that you have found in the bibliography, it compares to it, and why. The last part of your work is the conclusions and perspectives. So these are two different parts in one same paragraph. The conclusion itself is a summary of your work, and it gives the end result that you have obtained. Even if just before it, at the end, in the conclusion of the final chapter, you have already given the results and the values. In the conclusion, you remind us of the final answer that you got. And it's important. So in the conclusion, you have to show us your scientific proof. You have to show us the plus that you have given to science. The perspectives, on the other hand, are what are the future works and the future possibilities of your project. So it could be two different things. If your project did not finish, be it because it's a very large project, or be it because you tried one axis of a solution and maybe it did not really work, the perspective would be, don't work on this because I already did it and it didn't work. So try the other, if somebody else wants to continue the work, or if you yourself are going to do another project on the same topic, you are going to orient the work into another field, another way of work. Or it could be that your work has opened to new perspectives. So you gave results, and these results open to new different types of work. And this also, you have to put it in here. It is very important in the introduction and in the conclusion and the perspectives that the reader sees that you're not only limited to the job that you have been given, but you can see how to situate your work in the science. So this is why you always begin with describing the general project and the general topic that you are part of, and we end up with how do we open to the general topic again. This is the end of this part. I described in here the different parts of the report and how to write each one of them. Enjoy writing so that you enjoy reading.